Kevin J. Johnston here, freedomreport.ca. Due to the miracle of the internet, I am now speaking with folks across the world, and I have Mike, who's a Canadian citizen, who's contacted me from Germany to express a number of very serious concerns that are taking place in Germany right now. Mike, thank you very much for joining us today. Could you let us all know, please, what city you are currently near in Germany?
I'm near the city of Düsseldorf, which is basically North Rhine-Westphalia, where they just had the elections. Düsseldorf is the big, I would say, financial center in this area.
Now, you moved to Germany for what reason?
I've got German, partial German heritage, and I wanted to explore where I came from, but there was another more urgent reason that I came here. I was in another European country, and my wife is a recognized refugee, and she became a victim of basically a human trafficking ring, and they tried to kidnap her. So we kind of semi-fled to Germany.
You fled to Germany from where?
From the Netherlands.
From the Netherlands.
Yeah.
So she
organized human trafficking, kidnapping of refugees and vulnerable people, essentially. Yeah.
Could you explain a bit about how the ring works, or maybe how it was found out?
Well, all of this was unexpected. I mean, you come to a country where you think you're in Europe, in the West, but they've got a thing called the asylum industry. They talk about a lot of refugees, and what you have in Europe is a grand scale, a farce, a scam, where everybody talks about refugees, but in fact, I would say, that's my personal opinion, a lot of politicians, officials, they start a little so-called help refugee center. They funnel money into that, and then they take as many people as they can that they call refugees, because most people, as far as I'm concerned, that come to Europe are not refugees. And then also in these centers and even asylum centers, there are professional I don't know how to say that, traffickers that target young women that they think are vulnerable, and then they disappear.
Any idea where they're going?
In our case, it was basically Hungarian mobsters working with corrupt police officers, and probably first East Europe. A lot of them ended up in the brothels of Antwerp in Belgium. A lot of others ended up in brothels in London, and a lot of others on the Reeperbahn in Hamburg. But I would say a lot of them disappeared to Eastern Europe.
Now, the kidnappings that are taking place, is this exclusively women?
It's not exclusively women. It's also it's children, young male children as well, for prostitution purposes. And they've acknowledged officially that at least over 10,000 refugees had gone missing directly out of asylum centers, for example, in the Netherlands. The same problem exists here in Germany. No.
Holy smoke. So you escaped the Netherlands to get to Germany. Tell us about how that works.
How it worked was, because of a heritage, we had death threats, we had chemicals thrown through a window where we lived. I had my shoulder basically dislocated. Because my wife speaks a specific language, we had a warning from some kind guys that happened to be in a motorcycle gang that worked together with corrupt police, and they warned us and said that we would be targeted. It was better for us to leave in a hurry, and so we left. I will not mention the name of the gang, but
of course.
For reasons, yeah. But some of these guys are known to be involved in trafficking. The frightening thing, however, is that they're government officials. There are police officials that are involved in this human trafficking trade, and that was an absolute shock for me as a Canadian, thinking Europe was a safe place.
Well, we have movies that have come out, like one with Liam Neeson in it, where they specifically talk about kidnapping rings. And that movie was based on the fact that there was a lot of reports coming out of Europe that kidnappings were very commonplace. Kidnappings for the sole purpose of shipping girls and young boys out for prostitution purposes to North Africa. and to the Middle East. Now, this kidnapping ring that you're talking about, where do you think these people are being sent to?
Well, they had a report just now that I read today, and I was thinking, thank God, and good on them. Funnily, it was the Italian mafia. They, with a priest, had control of a refugee center, and they absconded with 30 million euros, supposedly meant for refugees. Now, the government didn't like the competition, I suppose, and so they make this big arrest about Italian mobsters. But the fact is, what they do is, so you have the asylum centers, people arrive, they're registered, and they put, and the thing that was amazing for me, really the amazing thing for me was that my wife was legal, had a visa, the country where she came from before she had to flee. They actually have an agreement with the Netherlands, but they put the names, the birth date, the country of origin simply on the wall. Anybody could walk into these centers, and you would see essentially Serbian mafia, Albanian mafia. You'd see all kinds of nefarious people walking in, looking at the lists on the wall, and a lot of the women frightened, basically some of them disappearing. And what I didn't know, however, was that certain asylum officials are involved with these groups, and that's what we got to know. And what I'm talking about is we have documented proof. Yeah, documented proof. When suddenly I left this specific country I just spoke about to go overseas to make sure that I had the funds to show that I would be able to financially support my wife, my partner. So I left to another country, and suddenly I couldn't reach her anymore. So I came. Finally, when I was able to reach her under threats, I said, look, she doesn't want to talk to you. And I'm like, what is this? I know my wife. I know my partner. Why she doesn't want to talk to me? Then she told me in with hints and with another language, an Asian language that we both speak, please get over here or I'm going to disappear, I'm going to die. So I rushed back to, in this case, the Netherlands, and all her information had disappeared out of the asylum computers. Supposedly, she had checked herself out, supposedly she had disappeared, and supposedly she had looked for her own accommodation. But the proof that I have is that literally a police officer had introduced a farm, where she could stay, and it turned out that on this farm were human traffickers with criminal records. Some had been kicked out before, and even worse than that, she was also infected in the Netherlands with tuberculosis.
In the Netherlands?
In the asylum, what they do is they when we were there in the north, they threw 10 people in one room. They just threw them together, sick or not, and some people were coughing up blood. And so I protested. I actually was let in as her partner, and the miscommunication was horrendous. I was let in as her partner with a European passport. I also had a Canadian passport, but other workers in this asylum had no clue who I was. They thought I was a refugee, and so instead of knowing that I was her spouse or her partner, they thought I was also a refugee, and I was told to shut the F up. I was told to be happy that I could be in the Netherlands, and what I experienced there was absolutely traumatizing. I mean, out of a movie, something that you don't want to experience,
Well, let me ask you this, because I've been watching Geert Wilders for a very long time now. And we know that the government's trying to shut him up. Now, these refugee centers, or the fake refugee centers where human trafficking is involved in, is this what he is outspoken about publicly in the Netherlands?
I'm kind of apolitical. I don't try to get involved in political parties, but I'm very interested in the political parties. He has a lot of very good points. There's other people like Thierry Baudet. He's a Forum for Democracy, fantastic intellectual, who are also talking about the fact that this is an industry. This is an industry. This is a newspaper article in Germany. Basically, I don't know if you can see it.
If you can keep it still for a second,
Die Asylindustrie.
Okay.
In German, it says the asylum industry, ein Milliardengeschäft. The rest of the paper on the other side basically talks about no-go zones. Is your area? So then it says, is your area, your viertel, is that also about to collapse and not livable anymore? So you have all these politicians talking about helping refugees, but as far as I'm concerned, personal opinion, what I've seen is all these little foundations. They're funneling a tremendous amount of money that disappears, supposedly helping refugees. And what Wilders talks about, he talks about that so many people are left in. It's kind of like if you have your house, you don't leave the door open. You're allowed to lock your door, right?
Right.
The politicians are talking all the time about, we need to support refugees, we need to help them. Well, my wife is a real refugee. And then if you say anything against them, if you say like, well, we should vet these people, we should check them. Are these really people, criminals coming out of the prisons of the Maghreb, of Morocco, of Algeria? Are these really criminal gangs that are pretending to be refugees? Are these really ex-ISIS fighters? And I firsthand experienced there are numerous ISIS fighters here in Germany. There are numerous Salafists. There are numerous killings by Salafists and extremists. This is a fact. This is in the news.
Who are they killing?
They're killing non-believers, kafirs. They're killing anybody who doesn't prescribe. They're killing the people that they're killing are first the vulnerable. They're killing the elderly, pensioners. But just a couple of cases that just happened. I read an article this morning and I called the two lawyers. They target specifically also Asians, Chinese background, Asian background. So there's a very big fat warning. And I plead to you and also to the Canadian Immigration Services, put on your website a travel warning to Germany. Because a lot of these, I'll try to be polite. I'm obviously very emotional about this, but...
and you're allowed to be.
Because we've had a lot of death threats. Yeah, we've had a lot of death threats. And with all these death threats, oh, by the way, thank you to Trudeau to never answering our letter, and to his people. They never answered us, asking for help. Back to the following. Two cases that just happened. A Syrian refugee, his driver's license was taken away from him, so he proceeded to threaten the police officer that he was going to rape and kill his wife and daughter. And then he made a phone call, and another 15 refugee Syrian asylum seekers showed up and threatened his life and stated that they would put a bullet in every police officer's head. One case. Yesterday, another judgment was made. Two Chinese students in Bochum, not too far away from the city of Essen, they were raped. One was 22-year-old, one was 28-year-old, by a 32-year-old Syrian refugee claimant who came here with his so-called wife and child. Most likely not his real wife and not his real child, because they do a rent-a-child, rent-a-wife. They pretend to be a family. And so this man got 11 years. So essentially, he attempted to murder them as well, to strangulate them. So it is such a lax joke that for the attempted murder on two Chinese foreign students here, this man got approximately 5.5 years in a German jail, which to these people is a hotel. So these are just two cases in the last couple of days.
Just in a couple of days?
Last couple of days, yeah.
Well,
I can give you a couple more, a little list very shortly. Yeah.
Okay. Well, tell you what I'd like to ask, because the biggest concern now, especially with the number of Muslims moving into Mississauga, Toronto, the Greater Toronto Area, for example, is the creation of no-go zones, something that I've been trying to educate Canadians about. Now, how many no-go zones are there in Germany that you know of?
There are many. There's whole areas of Duisburg, which is a city in Ruhrgebiet. There's whole areas in Mülheim. We had to move because of a no-go zone. There's areas in Essen, which you cannot go. The police is afraid to go there. And you can check this on everything I say. You can check it on YouTube, on Google. They have to go with 3-4 police cars. The police officers being told that, hey, you look good. I'm going to rape you. I'm going to rape you till you die, the females. In the German trains, people are afraid of being continuously told. There's another area close to here, which is Gelsenkirchen, where women cannot walk around in or spandex pants or even normal jeans. The fact is even that they're Western, they get called to be filthy, excuse my French, or English rather, filthy whores, and spat at. They try to grope them. So there's a lot of no-go zones. We had to move because of one no-go zone, and we moved on advice of the police in that city. Yeah.
Well, in reference to the groping, I've had a number of women call me to complain about being groped on the subway. And one of the big, the Toronto subway, I don't know about Montreal as of yet, or Vancouver has an above-ground train, but these women are saying that they're complaining to the Toronto Star, the Toronto Sun, the Huffington Post, and so on, and no one's listening to them. Nobody.
We have the same problem in Germany. I'm going to say something politically incorrect, and
Go
maybe
ahead.
this is a good way for me to get back
Do
to
it,
Canada.
because I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Say it in politically incorrectly, because political correctness is why we have this problem right now.
It is a disease. It is a disease. We tried to talk to the officials. My wife is a recognized refugee. She's Asian. She clearly has some Chinese. And this is another thing. The Chinese government actually should. I hope that the Chinese government would demand that people that either rape or murder Chinese over here get to do their jail time in China under Chinese conditions.
That would be amazing, because we know that there are some nasty prisons in central China. Bad ones, very bad ones.
Yeah, the German. When I was in the asylum center, and I was in an asylum center in a city not far from here, because I was there for the safety of my wife, and people thought I was a refugee because I don't particularly look German. I met a bank robber and a murderer from Azerbaijan who asked me for help. They thought I was either Armenian or Russian. I saw things in there unbelievable. My wife had to pay €2 every time to use the washroom, and had threats of rape. So I would literally have to walk with her to the washroom and stand close to her. Otherwise, she would have been easily raped. There were Albanian, I believe, gangs that would bring prostitutes, 16-year-old, from the asylum center, pick them up in a Mercedes SEL 350, do their business, and then bring them back to the asylum center. So it is, it's an absolute joke. Now here it's for Canada, honestly. And I say this honestly to the Canadian police. If they give you a hard time, you know what? I predict this, and it's no magic prediction. You're going to get raped Canadian women. You're going to get murdered, raped children. You're going to get seniors being raped, murdered, and killed. And in Germany, they cover it up. When I said that, I speak a couple of languages, a couple of Asian languages. When I mentioned to the police that the Vietnamese, the Chinese, the Korean, the Japanese communities here are in absolute fear because they get targeted first. Because of these so-called Muslim, refugees who are not refugees, they will first rape, murder, and assault these people. This is our experience in this community, because they figure, according to their cultural values, they don't have family that can revenge them or their loved ones or anybody. These are students. They have to go back home. They feel they're an easy target.
Wait a second. Hold on a second here. Hold on.
Yeah.
Muslims are picking their rape victims based on the fact that there's no family to avenge their rape or death.
Yes.
What the hell is this?
Well, they deny it. I called the police. I talked to them. They said to me, write a letter to Merkel. They told me, go speak to the police chief. And they said, this is subjective. In Germany, they say subjective. Yeah, subjective. And I said, what are you talking about subjective? We ourselves have 8 Strafanzeigen, 8 police reports. My wife was attacked in the bus, grabbed from behind. I had a guy try to kick me between the legs, punch me in the face, and calling me a kafir. While trying to protect my wife. We were attacked outside of a police station. They had a young 17-year-old going on a train in Germany, attacking some Chinese with a machete. Yeah, they just caught this other Iraqi hiding in the bushes in the university, and he was ready to jump his 3rd Chinese victim. So when you go to the authorities, you either they look at you in disbelief, they say it's subjective, it gets put under the carpet, or you get ridiculed. Give you an idea. My wife is 157 high, and she's about 43 kilograms. The advice they gave her is, 1, you should walk with a baseball bat. She isn't even strong.
Sorry, whoa. The police said this.
Yeah, the police said this. The police told us, number 1, write a letter to Merkel. If we make a police report, we can't help you anyways. It's going to be thrown out anyways. Number 1. Number 2, go take a self-defense class. I mean, it's kind of telling a mouse is still a mouse if you say to the mouse, why don't you meow and pretend to be a cat? You know, I want to say to these police officers, if you go on a holiday to Africa, why don't you dress up as an elephant and see if he doesn't stomp on you? These are big military young men, military men, that are obviously picking their victims that are weak. And all the police can tell us here is carry a baseball bat with you, or take a self-defense class. I mean, it's ludicrous. They're sick. Honestly, My wife and I, we make continuously very sad jokes. We think all the nuclear waste that's been dumped off the coast of Europe has gotten in the milk here because people here are really, to a great extent, mentally retarded. When you try to tell them, don't you guys see what is happening here? So we feel not safe. To give you an idea, then we said to the police, we need pepper spray. So I bought this. Can you see this?
I see. Yep. Pfeffer, it says, right?
Yeah, pfeffer pepper spray. Well, the policeman said that is not a good pepper spray. This is a fog pepper spray. You better get a better pepper spray, as in a strahl pepper spray. So they tell me to get a better pepper spray. And then he said, well, you know what you can also do? Here's a good idea for you. Police tells me this. Why don't you get one of these?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
a stun gun.
Yeah, get a stun gun. And then I said, am I allowed to carry this? Well, yeah, you're allowed to carry this, but if you use it, then you might get in trouble. And then he told me, why don't you get a gas pistol? But you do need a license for that. So instead of solving the problem, yeah, they're telling me to, in Canada, I used to at one point in time work for Parks Canada. I never had bear spray. I never had a taser. So something really nasty is coming to Canada. It's unbelievable.
Some of it's already here. The whole nastiness thing. And you know what's interesting is everything that you're saying. I was saying 2 years ago, in a section of Mississauga, they want to put a mosque in, which does have a capacity for 1,600 people and parking for only 100 cars. Now, I was warning people, you have to fight the mosque because there's going to be an increase in crime. I said the increase in sexual assaults, the kidnapping of young girls, and so on. Now, when I put all this information out, our mayor, Bonnie Crombie, decided to attack me publicly on those particular...
But Kevin, you're a racist. You're a Nazi. Come
on,
like me.
I'm white. I'm white. If I was brown,
look at me. Look at with my stupid head and stupid glasses, having to hide myself. You're a Nazi. My cat is a Nazi. My wife, who isn't even Caucasian, is a Nazi. You cannot talk to these people. They're sick in the head. Everybody who tells the government there's a problem is called a Nazi. And then we had elections here, and guess what? The ruling parties had such a kick in the pants, from the local people. I went to different parties to inquire on what's going on. And I sit there with 86, 87-year-old old ladies that are telling me they were sexually attacked by fake refugees. It is unbelievable. I went to one meeting and they said to me, you have very short hair. Right? So this is not good that you have short hair because that indicates, your haircut, that you might be a right-wing extremist. I said, I'm Canadian. What are you talking about? They are insane. They are retarded and they need Prozac or something and put it in a sanatorium because the crime here is completely off. You cannot take the Straßenbahn, or Vancouver it'd be the SkyTrain. You cannot take it safely. When I sit next to my wife, I've got a fake refugee sticking his tongue out, making fellatio, sick gestures at my wife who sits next to me. And the thing is, they're all prior and all what do you say this? They're all I'm a good Muslim this, I'm a good Muslim that. I'm not talking about all Muslims, but I'm talking about the genre that is coming here. And it is trash. It is filth. It comes out of jails, and they attack anybody they consider as being a kafir. I couldn't believe it, so I said to my wife, darling, please walk in front of me, not next to me, in front of me from now on. So if somebody gropes you or something like that, I can protect you. And sure enough, them not knowing I'm with my wife, you've got somebody trying to hit her or somebody trying to push her onto the floor. It's a couple of things I wanted to throw in there. First of all, I hope I can do this. What's his name? Tommy Robinson.
Tommy Robinson, yes. The Rebel.media, he works with them now.
Tommy Robinson, you are awesome. God bless you.
Cheers to Tommy Robinson. He is phenomenal.
God bless you, because the scum that you have to deal with over there, the same scum is over here. And honestly, here's another thing. Public official, you know what they told me here? They said to me, the police will not help you. So I have an idea. You know what this woman did? She took me to a local motorcycle gang, and she suggested that I join a motorcycle gang which is known for its criminal affiliations. This is a German public official, like a bureaucrat.
Because they don't know what to do, so they're suggesting that the only way for you to stay safe is to get involved with a motorcycle gang that is crooked.
And by the way, this motorcycle gang, they were extremely polite. They were more polite than any other people I've met, And I seriously, my thing is, I want to go back and get back to Canada and bring my wife to safety as a Canadian. And that's a whole other story that I can shortly present to you what the consulates and embassies are doing here. That's a disgrace and a half. I mean, half of those people should really be locked up. But Tommy Robinson is 100% right. A whole bunch of these other people 100% right. What is coming to Canada is very, very nasty. You just won't notice it as quickly because the population density isn't as big.
Right. Well, and Canadians are completely ill prepared for this. The majority of them can't fight, can't lift more than 50 pounds, and don't want to see the truth. In fact, what had happened 2 years ago when I brought all this attention forward is that everybody with a brain congratulated me. And I'd say about 80% of the people I spoke to told me things like, I thought what you did was disgusting. It was so gross. It's so uncalled for. This is the type of things that are being said. Now, it's probably half the people who were criticizing me in 2015 are on my side today because they're getting more and more exposure to what's happening. I mean, the Rebel.media is a big one who's bringing this type of thing to light.
Well, hey Canada, all you need is another 1,000 dead Canadians. I think you'll change your mind. Wait till you get another 1,000 dead Canadians. Wait till you get a grandma who will be raped, who's 86 years old, and after she's raped, her throat gets cut right in front of her husband. I mean, another story a short time ago, a nice Catholic family, I'm not Catholic, but nice Catholic family wanted to do a Pakistani a favor and gave him a room for free. So what did this Pakistani do? He killed the 70-year-old man's wife and cut her into pieces because she wouldn't convert to Islam. Yeah. Another thing here was a guy in jail. He inquired if he could poison Kafir children with his ice cream truck. Yeah, if that was okay, and he tried to seek contact with ISIS. Another one to your Sikh community, and I grew up in Vancouver with a lot of Sikh friends, Punjabi friends, Chinese friends, and I'm not a fake multiculti kind of lunatic like Trudeau who shows himself off with the community and says, look what a feminist I am, give me a break. Yeah, he just shows his face with the Chinese community, and he doesn't care. As far as I'm concerned,
he doesn't care one bit.
He didn't care about us here. Here's the receipt. Here's the receipt of the letter that we tried to send to Trudeau and McCollum or whatever his name is. These guys are sick. I find them treasonous. They make me so angry. They're sick jokers. But another case, it was a Sikh temple here. They bombed it. It was also bombed with Muslims. So we've got Sikh temples being bombed. We've got Chinese being attacked with machetes in the train. They're from Hong Kong. Some of them died. 3 people died. 15 were injured. We've got them trying to poison Kafirs with the ice cream truck. We've got them killing the elderly, breaking an entry. They won't convert, so that's their excuse to cut them into pieces. And you cannot take public transit anymore. And when you talk to I want to say one respectful thing to the German police. They're trying. Under circumstances.
Okay. But I get that. I mean, it's fear. Yeah. It's fear. They the best that they can do, regrettably, is make an arrest, and then the system is going to let them go. So yeah, exactly. I guess really my question is, there are 2 groups that I'm disappointed in. I'm not going to say it's the police, but I will say that it's the military leaders. Why are they not infiltrating the cities themselves, occupying German territory with the German army? And the rest of it are, what the hell are the citizens doing? Why are the citizens not forming groups like this motorcycle gang and running their own patrols to counter Sharia patrols that we know are in Berlin right now?
Yeah, there's a good reason here. Germany has a guilt complex, and I don't have that. Germany has an afterwar guilt complex, and this is really interesting. They've exported now. They've exported, as you know, anybody like Trump and you and me. You could be a Vietnamese guy saying, I like Canadian culture, and they would call him a Nazi now, the social justice warriors, which really are mentally retarded.
Oh, they are.
The Antifa lunatics. Yeah?
Yes.
We have the same lunatics here.
Well, the good news about Antifa, though, here is because Canada's so spread out, Antifa, if it's downtown Toronto, Montreal, or Ottawa, Vancouver, there's mass transit in those cities, so they can get to the events. But if it's anywhere else outside of those 4 centers, they can't get there because Antifa don't have jobs, don't have driver's licenses, and don't have a brain in their heads to figure out how to get to. Actually, they can't even afford Uber rides to get out to the suburbs to protest. I've only seen one Antifa protest in Mississauga, a city of 1 million people, but there's no mass transit system. 4 kids showed up. That was it for one protest. And even with the
Germany
four
is
of them, even with only 4 kids, it still ended up in a fist fight.
Yeah, but Antifa has a stronghold here in Germany. And if you, for example, even just an interesting experience we had, we were interested to hear what the AfD had to say. Because everybody told us, when I arrived in Germany, I don't like this Sigmar Gabriel. He was SPD. Yeah, SPD is like a workers' party. It's kind of like I don't want to compare him to a Canadian party because that would be insulting Canadian parties. And I do believe all the Canadian parties are, except for now the Liberal Party, which I think are out to pasture pretty soon, because I believe they're going to really be kicked out.
Oh,
next election.
they're done. They're done next election.
Yeah, and I hope they get some criminal charges against him as well, and Trudeau gets investigated for his foundation. Yeah, but in here, so we have this SPD party, yeah, that started all their little personal foundations, so-called helping refugees. So when I came here, people said to me, if you vote for the AfD, you're a Nazi, you're a right-winger. I don't like people taking away my right to educate myself.
Okay, could you maybe tell the audience here what the AfD is, please?
Okay, in Europe, you have a lot of parties in every country of citizens that are so fed up with the corruption and the bull cakes of the government that you have these, they call them populist parties. Well, I just call them popular by the regular citizens, normal people, yeah, not the rich folks or something like that. Even some of them, though. So these parties sprang up. It is the PVV in the Netherlands. It is Front National in France. It is the AfD, the Alternative for Germany. Whenever you have any kind of a party that comes in that is not pro the government, whether it's in the Netherlands, in France, in Germany, and whether you have any government, including the governments of Slovakia, Poland, Hungary, that say, no, we don't want endless Muslim immigration of criminals into our countries, then you get labeled a fascist, a racist, and they start to discredit you. They try to find any kind of thing that they can say discredit you. So the AfD started about 5 years ago, and it was a response to, they did not want to be part of this. What I find it's a fascist. The EU has become, to me personally, a fascist organization that takes away the rights of the citizens, because decisions are made in Strasbourg or in Brussels, outside of the countries, and people are dictated what they have to do. And the local people have no choice whatsoever to say, we don't want extra immigration, we don't want this, we don't want that. So the AfD is this popular party in Germany, and in North Rhine-Westphalia, Westphalia, they just got 7.8% overall. But personally, my personal opinion, there was complete voter fraud by the SPD and the CDU, and they made a lot of ballots disappear. Because almost everybody I spoke to, they all said, not publicly, people are not ashamed anymore, I'm voting for the AfD. Polish, Russian, Vietnamese, Chinese are saying, yeah, but it's a racist party. No, they're not. They want to close the front door so nobody walks into your front door, goes into your refrigerator, and says, I'm going to sleep with your wife, whether she likes it or not. Yeah. So the borders have to be guarded. So I hope it's a pretty bad explanation for me, but
no, it's not a bad explanation at all. Listen, if I was given the opportunity to be prime minister here, the first thing I would do is shut down all immigration, bring it to 5,000 a year for 3 years, just to be able to recoup the mistakes that have been made, and I would make sure that the 5,000 that came in were either previous Canadian residents, or they were people that were looking to come here who have skills like lawyers, doctors, electricians, skilled individuals that can help the country. Scientists would be the big one. And all refugees would be turned away. And everybody here who had not filed properly would also be turned out. And every Muslim man that had more than one wife, the whole family would be turfed. The idea here is to protect what was built by our forefathers and not to allow it to just be stolen from us because of white guilt, something I do not feel.
Kevin, let me add something to what you're saying.
Yeah.
There. So there's a fundamental mistake that you make, because they probably tried to brainwash all of us.
Yes, of course.
I'll tell you what, the people that you said refugees, these people are not refugees.
Right.
My wife is a refugee.
So let's use the term fake refugee and real refugee. We have to discern.
We have to distinguish. These aren't refugees. Look, a refugee is a person that comes from one country and escapes to the next one. I had a personal case here of a so-called guy. He pretended to be from Afghanistan. He's really from India. He came here as a refugee, and he has a Vollmacht is a he has a lawyer's note that he has 150,000 euros to his in his name to invest in small properties in Germany. So when I was in the refugee center, I could clearly look. I lived in the Middle East for a short period of time teaching. So I understand a lot more. I've got one of those faces where people wouldn't know that I speak a couple of Asian languages. People, they pick a fake family. They pick a woman and a child and say, we're family. And I have no doubt that a lot what came into Canada, the 50,000 or 30,000 or whatever it is, are fake refugees,
right.
Fake families. Now, here's my question to you and to Trudeau and the Liberal Party. My family originally came from Europe as business immigrants. My cousin is married and had to go through all this paperwork and documentation for his wife. Most of my friends are married either to Koreans, to Japanese, to Vietnamese, you name it. They had to go through all these documentations, a whole bureaucratic mess. And then finally, over a long period of time, to be able to come to Canada, and the spouses had to work to support them. And now suddenly, Trudeau says, you know what, we're taking 50,000, we pay for their ticket, they don't get any of this. We just take them because they're refugees, and we pick them up from a refugee camp. I think it was Jordan. I believe it was Jordan, yeah. We pick them up. Not only that, we sent 500 immigration officers over there to interview them. Then is my question, did these guys even know?
There was no drug screening, by the way, just so you know. That's why tuberculosis has shown up in Toronto again.
Yeah, no DNA screening even to probably show that the kids that they were bringing weren't even their own kids.
No, none. They weren't even screening for AIDS, syphilis, gonorrhea, or any other sexually transmitted disease. Not a one.
Yeah, like I said, and it gets more nefarious than that. For example, you have refugees that show up in Europe, and you've got medical companies that are doing medical testing on refugees right outside the asylum center, purposely, as far as I'm concerned, personal opinion, purposely infecting people with HIV and tuberculosis. Thank God my wife was not infected with HIV, but she was infected with tuberculosis and ended up almost dying. And then you have a cover-up. But that is here. The point is, I don't see a future in Europe. I see that we need to take in 50, a couple of million German refugees pretty soon. Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't understand as a Canadian, why am I sitting in Europe for 4 years? I talk to various consulates and embassies, and I write letters to Trudeau and saying, this is my situation. I just ask you, tell me what documentation I need to fill out to bring my wife, whom I married in Europe, whom I married with for several years. How can I bring her on a recognized refugee passport to Canada? Do you know what they tell me?
No, what's that?
Okay, they tell me, why don't you contact VSS Global, a visa agency? Why don't you contact this other visa agency? It started like this. In all of Europe right now, I think it's 500 million people. How many live here? There's only one location for Canada that I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, it's only one location, especially for Western Europe, where you can make a visa application, supposedly, and that is Vienna. So if you're in any of these countries, the Netherlands, Belgium, France, you must make an application in Vienna. But when you get sent to Berlin, then you get sent here, you get sent there. When I was in Düsseldorf, I met a Romanian-Canadian woman, destitute. They sent her, go to Berlin. And I informed the consulate. I said to them, you guys, Berlin doesn't do this anymore. She must call Vienna. They told me that, oh, yeah, I guess you're right. So they were about to send her halfway across the country with wrong information. When I called Vienna, the embassy or the consulate in Vienna, Austria, essentially I got a royal sorry, I'm angry. Basically, go blow yourself. Yeah? Don't call us, talk to a visa agency. And then when I called the visa agency, they said, honestly, the visa agency and even staff of various consulates, they said it's so convoluted, we don't know what to do anymore, and it is a scam.
Okay, Mike, let me ask you this then, because you've got a Canadian passport, as we discussed earlier. Show us. There it is. You got the Canadian passport.
And it's not a fake one because, I considered buying a Syrian passport with my name in it for, 25 euros, and maybe I should go sit in a refugee camp in Jordan. Maybe that way I get faster back to Canada, eh?
Are you not able to, you and your wife, come to Canada for a vacation and then apply for visas here.
No, it's not possible because they have this visa. I consider it a scam. What the government has done is they have these visa agencies.
Right.
So if any mistakes are made, then it's not the responsibility of the Canadian government. So anybody welcome seeing this, welcome, feel free to call the Canadian consulate or embassy in Europe.
Right.
And they will tell you, you must call Vienna. Vienna will tell you, we don't give you advice anymore, go to visa agency.
No, I get that part. Okay, but my question is this. I mean, if I've got a passport, I can jump on a plane and just go to London for the hell of it. What would be stopping you and your wife from getting on a plane and going to Montreal for the hell of it?
I'll give you the explanation of the Canadian consulate in the Netherlands. Greetings to you guys, you bunch of scum. They told me this. You're Canadian, you can leave any time you like, but unfortunately your wife is not Canadian, so you'll have to leave her alone in the Netherlands. And I said, look, she's in danger. She's a victim of crime. I cannot leave her alone in the Netherlands. Well,
so she doesn't have a passport then of any kind, is that right?
Yeah, she has a refugee passport, and they literally told me, well, she's not dying, is she? That's what they told me.
What about a landed immigrant passport, something from Germany or another country? Is it not possible to get something like that?
And here is the discrepancy. I called, by the way, very friendly people. Michelle Rempel, fantastic, in Ottawa. Out of desperation, I called her. They were very friendly. Another person, Mark Strahl, the Conservative Party, fantastic. They really try to help. The reality is this. They tell me, why don't you apply for a work visa? So, for example, my wife is offered a job. Yeah, I have a friend who has a property. Yeah, I won't say what exactly, but he can give my wife a job, a valid job, income, and we have a place to stay. So they tell me, well, apply for a work visa. The problem is she has a recognized refugee passport. And with a recognized refugee passport, the visa agencies say, we don't touch it. We don't do that. Contact the consulate. The consulate says, we don't do visas. Contact the visa agency.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And they said, well, what's original passport? Well, she is a refugee. They killed her mother. They killed her brother. And by the way, that lovely religion of pieces, which is more like a sick fascist ideology, is responsible for killing most of her indigenous people back home. So she cannot travel on any documentation because she doesn't have any other than being the spouse of a Canadian and also a European citizen.
And so, I've covered that subject matter, and I'm going to continue to cover that subject matter of Bangladeshi Muslims that are traveling east through Burma, Vietnam, and the Philippines, and moving towards the south of all of those countries and just killing en masse. I mean, Canadians seem to forget that we've had a Canadian beheaded in the Philippines by Muslims. And everyone just says, oh, no, it's okay. You can't criticize Muslims. In fact, listen, Windsor, Ontario, I made it into the Windsor Star yesterday because I'm calling out a mosque that's illegally placed inside of a residence. And what happens here is I'm called a bigot because I'm pointing this out by a city councilor. Never mind. So I get that. I certainly understand.
The political, that's again the disease of political correctness. You know what I suggest to any of these people? I've lived in the Middle East. I was supposed to go to Afghanistan with World Youth, Canadian program. That was when the Russians were there, so that didn't pan out.
Okay.
Thank goodness. But I tell you, I invite any of these yahoos, these politically activist lunatics, go live for a while in the Middle East.
Oh,
and
hey,
I'm not talking.
I say the same thing to all the blue-haired feminists here, too. Listen, personally, I'll mortgage my home to buy you all plane tickets. 6 months in Riyadh. That's all I ask you to do. Go to Riyadh for 6 months. And then you tell me.
I have to warn you. I have to warn you. Kevin, I have to warn you. I was in Riyadh. Yeah. Riyadh is not that bad. You know why? In Riyadh, these Muslims, what they pull off in Europe, what these so-called very pious people, they get their hands, there's chop square on Fridays, they get their heads and their hands cut off if they behave over there the way they behave over here.
Right.
It's not tolerated. So I would suggest Iraq. I would suggest a Lebanon. You know what happened to Lebanon? You have a wonderful lady that was on your show. God bless her as well. I've seen her on God bless her as well. You know, or if you don't believe in God, well, good on you. You know, she came from Saudi, I believe.
Yes, Sandra Solomon. Yeah.
Yeah, and here's the thing about when I was in Saudi, I have information about some serious lunatic Canadians that are lost in their own society, and they go over there and they try to convert them and foster them to turn them into religious lunatics, so they can go back to where they came from and operate as sleeper cells or stuff like that. I met 2 Canadians like that. Sometimes you see a nutcase German or Canadian walking with a long beard, and he thinks he's the next coming of Allah. It's unbelievable. I met one of these guys. I swear to Buddha, Allah, and whatever God you believe in, I don't care. I'm in Istanbul. I think it's the airport in Istanbul. Yeah. And I see this guy from Florida. I came back from Riyadh on the way back to the Netherlands. And he started talking. He was with a Pakistani British chap. And they were talking to me, and they said, had I converted? And I just interested. I said, I keep my mouth shut. And this guy from Florida, young kid, the whole gear, you know? It looked like he came straight out of a movie. And he talked about, he had converted, and he was preaching about Allah, this and that. Okay, I forgot about the whole deal. A couple of months later, I sit in Berlin because I had to flee from the Netherlands, and there's a video on TV. This young Floridan guy blew himself up under a military base, killed a whole bunch of people, the same guy that I met at the airport. It is full of nutcakes that are over there, and that are purposely being fostered to misinterpret or maybe properly interpret, I have no idea, and that are coming back into the West. And then Trudeau facilitates it.
Go ahead. No, I'm just going to say if they are blowing themselves up and killing people, then what they're doing is they're essentially following the teachings of Muhammad, because we know there's the Quran, the Book of Muhammad, and the Hadiths. Now, for anyone to be pulling a stunt like that, they are following it, which is regrettable this stuff even exists in the first place. But yes, you are correct. We do have Trudeau bringing this stuff here en masse. And he even goes ahead and criticizes me. I put a video out, I think you know about, for a $1,000 reward for anybody that finds or records Muslim hate speech taking place in Toronto area schools. I've upped it to $2,500 since. But Trudeau hears about this video, and instead of outright stating that, okay, we agree there's a bit of an issue, he instead says that, well, Canadians, we're good people because we have cold winters and we endure the cold. No one knows what this guy is talking about. Not even him.
You know, hey, Trudeau, bonjour mon ami, eh? Yeah? Thank you, merci bien. Thank you for screwing me over here. Because let me ask this guy then. Here's my question.
Yeah.
And to all of these MPs over there. Why the 2-tier system? Why all these Canadians who have spouse overseas have to go through all kinds of hurdles, all kinds of rules and regulations. But wait a second, we suddenly we bypass the entire immigration system, the entire security system, and we suddenly bring over 50,000 out of Syria. I guarantee this. This is not hate speech at all, because I have friends from all over the world and I don't care where you come from. But I guarantee you, this time, 3-4 years down the road, there's a bunch of dead Canadians. And we can say, hey, merci bien, hein, Trudeau. Thank you.
Yes,
and
thank
I bet you he's going to be labeled the worst minister-president that Canada ever had. Never mind, his dad might have been fantastic, or an orator, or whatever you want to think.
Well, his dad was a bit of a traitor as well. Just look at what he did. He sold us out with the banking industry, but I'll cover that some other time.
I didn't know the guy. I was brainwashed to believe that he was some kind of great politician, but I know this. I wrote a letter to Trudeau and to, what was it? Was it McCollum that was minister of who was the Minister of Foreign Affairs? His wife is also Chinese Canadian. No answer. Nothing. No answer. I explained, I just want to know what paperwork to fill out. And so I have lots of friends, and you see this on YouTube, lots of people want to bring their spouse over, and they have this condition, that condition, this condition, but suddenly they decide in Ottawa, hey, let's bring in 50,000. Let's bring an extra 30,000.
That's right. To show how sensitive we are as white people. Well, tell you what, how do I offer your wife a job? Because, I mean, I could use a few things. I could use a blogger. I could use an email reader. Yeah, I could use a cameraman, camera woman. I could use an editor. Yeah, listen, I've even got physical stuff that needs to get done. How do I offer her a job and get her here?
Well, I tell you what, she speaks Japanese, she speaks some Korean, she speaks very good English, yeah. She was a quality control officer. She actually worked in Singapore. She got a special visa. She was employee of the month. All these credentials. The only problem was that the refugee situation, and actually the not so funny story was that certain people tried to sell her to me, and we were friends. And I said, what? They tried to sell her to me.
Oh my
And then we
God.
were friends. And so at a certain moment, I had actually left, gone to Europe, and I said to her, look, here's money in the bank. Get yourself your own apartment. By the way, she was beaten up in front of my face. They grabbed her by the neck, and they rammed her face into the metal gate of a house with the police watching on of that country, that specific country, yeah. And they had the hand on their holster. They were ready to shoot me dead if I tried to stop them from doing that. So she's a wonderful lady. She's very outspoken. She's sick today because she was attacked 2 days ago here again.
Attacked
in
again?
A shopping mall. Yeah, we simply walked to a shopping mall, another shopping mall. It's called. I won't say the name of the place because I don't want to.
No, don't don't tell us where you are. No, don't do that.
It's a grocery store, a big grocery store they have in Germany, a big grocery store. She walks in front of me, and I push the cart. So we have a very equality relationship. I think I'm more of a feminist than that joker in Ottawa. So I press the cart, push the cart, and suddenly I see this woman in Muslim gear yelling at her. And she's very small. She's very petite. Actually, I'm blessed. She's younger than I am. She's a lovely being. I'm very blessed, but she's very small. So this big fat woman yelling at her for no reason. It's all on camera. So I walk up I say to this woman, what's the problem here in German? And she tells me it's none of my business. It's between her and this Asian woman. And I'm saying, excuse me.
For what reason?
It's Sharia. It's the implementation of Sharia.
Okay, so yelling at her because she's not covered. Is that what it was?
No, it's just she didn't like the way my wife looked back at me, and this Muslim woman or whatever she was, she stood to the side in between the view of my wife and I. So I guess she thought my wife looked at her, and she said, "Was denn? Was willst du denn?" And she started swearing at her, and I said to this woman, "Was ist los? Was ist das Problem here? What's the problem here?" And it escalated. And I must confess, I'm not an angel. I ended up giving her the finger and tell her to go flop herself because I had enough. I tell you, and this is a priest told me this. These kinds of people don't understand reason. They don't understand political discourse according to their culture. And this is some people out of that environment have told me. They only understand violence. And they are using our own liberties against us.
That's right.
Yeah?
Well, I've learned that lesson with Muslims. I learned it years ago. And I'll tell you the truth here. In 2015, when Mississauga Mayor Bonnie Crombie began her attack on me, there was the better part of over 1,000 Muslims countrywide that they would hammer me with insults, death threats, the whole nine yards. But what I've learned, here's the trick. I would, every single one of them, I hit them 5 to 7, maybe even 10 times harder with all the insults, reminding them that they are part of a heathen religion. Allah is Satan. Muhammad is a child molester. And they would all disappear. Muslims, when you stand up to them, they back down and they disappear. None of them talk about me anymore. In fact, the only people that criticize me about this Islam, a subject matter that I educate people on, are white journalists. That's it. The rest of them stay clear.
Here's an interesting note. There's some exceptions, and that's this. It's called a cell phone. You see, they will not confront you one-on-one. They get on a cell phone. That happened with this poor police officer, right? So this so-called asylum seeker, right? I won't tell you what I would like, what my wife, who's very little, would like to do to this guy, and she doesn't have capacity physically. He gets on the phone and he calls 15 or 20 others. Then to swarm somebody. That is one technique that they use.
Those videos have come out. Yeah, London, that's very common. I've seen a number of videos of Muslims who swarm. One guy will start talking to you, then makes a phone call, and then 4 show up. And then before you know it, you turn the camera and there's 20 following you or following your car.
And of course then there's the threats to rape your wife, rape your daughter, kill you, cut your throat, and that's allowed. And by the way, I quickly, in support of Tommy Robinson, I had really thought about calling that police department and really say to the police department in Britain, you know what, you guys? You had a big mouth about the Germans and the Nazis and the Afrikaners in South Africa and the Boer War, but you know what? You lost the war, guys. You lost the war. You let in the Trojan horse. What are you guys doing? Because those police officers, eventually, it's your wives, it's your daughters.
Yeah,
what are you guys doing?
That's the part they don't consider. That is the cops who are there and the politicians who are there are not considering the fact that their wives and daughters are every bit equally as susceptible to rape as my daughter, my wife, your wife, and so on. That's the reality of this. And the only way to get the Brits and the Canadians to wake up is to have the wife or daughter or both of any given politician in the country raped and murdered. Then you're going to see a big difference. And it's not that I wish that upon innocent people, but that's what's going to take in this country to get people to wake up.
That's the same thing in Germany. It's going to be another 10,000 dead finally. They had a couple of break-ins here, right? They had the military, the Bundeswehr. It's already so small. And they said something, oh, God forbid, they used the name out of the Second World War, so now you're a Nazi. Here's a funny story. We were standing at an AfD stand, and my wife sits next there because we wanted to hear what they had to say. They had free sausages and free beer. I don't drink beer because I'm allergic. I'm a celiac. A woman walks by. You know what she says to me? My wife sits there. She says to me in German, "You filthy Nazi. Who is that? Is that your cleaning lady?" Do you understand the sick psychology?
Yes, because their book tells them this. This is ingrained in them from day one. And I've tried to get people to understand that it's not Muslims I hate, but it's certainly Islam, because Islam is what makes these people behave this way. Yeah.
Well, what I don't understand, I understand very nice Kurdish people, lovely, very, great in dancing, music and stuff. I feel really sorry for the Kurdish people. The Kurdish are some of the few people that are actually fighting, in the north of Syria and Iraq. They're actually fighting these lunatic ISIS guys, right?
Yes.
And then what happens is, okay, are we now really going to finally support the Kurdish people? The great thing is, if we support them, then all these millions of Kurds can go back to their own country. But no, we don't do that. And then all these so-called Christian organizations, there's good people in there, by the way, with a good heart. But a lot of these big organizations, what are they doing about the slaughter of the Assyrians and the Yazidi Kurds and all of this? I mean, and here's the thing. I did some volunteer work here with refugees. And so I met some guys that went back, and these were soldiers, Kurdish guys, that went back to fight ISIS.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yep.
And I said, how come you're going back? And they said, this is our country. But then I met the other type of guys that come here, that claim to be a refugee, and they steal bicycles, and they break into houses. That's the other genre of people that you got here, right? What I don't understand is these fake refugees. And again, I believe every refugee needs a chance, 100%. I've been there. And my wife has been there. I've gone through the trauma and the sleepless nights and the nightmares and her waking up in a sweat and screaming her head off because she's afraid that they cut her throat, and they shame her again in public and say that she should be gang raped to death because she's a filthy Christian kafir. Okay? She wakes up. She had that for 3-4 years. So I get it. Yes, refugees have to be supported. But a lot which is coming in isn't.
Yeah, they're not refugees.
It is vile trash. It has to be deported, sent out. It has to, and the other thing is, it hasn't. They should not be put in Canadian jails. They should not be put in German jails. They should be put in Chinese jails, and people have to stop criticizing China. A friendly greeting to the Chinese Republic.
Mm-hmm, yep.
They should stop criticizing China, what China does, because, the Chinese are saying, look, they run around with a machete, cut people's heads off. But here's my question. I've gone through the whole legal rigmarole of trying to get my wife to Canada. I've got friends that say, we got a place for you to stay. They said for me also, I got a job ready. Do I need to start a publicity stunt? I thought I tried to build a boat, and I call it the SS, as in steamship, not as in German SS. Yeah, the SS Trudeauphobia. How about I build the SS Trudeauphobia, and I try to go to Canada. I call it a bunch of Canadians that all been screwed by the consular sections here in Europe, and we come back to Canada as boat people. I mean,
that'd be a good idea. It's been proven that if you have even a simple 20-foot sailboat, you could go from where you are at the north coast, get over to England, then past the Iceland coast, past the Greenland coast, and so eventually you'll hit something in Newfoundland or Labrador. I get that. I understand what you're saying. Listen, Mike, we're out of time. So do you have any closing statements to Canadians about what you're experiencing there and what they possibly could experience in the future?
You guys, a flood of pain, a flood of crime, a flood of terror is coming your way. You better get rid of this Trudeau joker and his clan, because a flood of pain is coming your way, where you're sitting at home and you're afraid to go outside. You're too afraid to take the bus because somebody might suddenly in a group gang assault you, assault your wife. A flood of pain is coming your way because a lot of people pretending to be refugees, pretending to even be families. They aren't families. They aren't related. A lot of them have criminal records. A lot of them come out of prisons. It's been proven. It was proven in the Netherlands. There's people in Africa. They have 10 kids. They send 3 kids on their own to, if they die, c'est la vie, que sera, sera. But if they make it on an asylum application, then they can bring the whole family over. Now, I get that you want a better life, but a lot of these people, they don't just want a better life. A lot of these people want to turn Canada into a new type of caliphate, and everybody who doesn't go with that is in for a lot of hurt. So I really pray. I'm very grateful to you, Kevin, Mr. Johnson, very grateful. Tommy Robinson, you're awesome. Rebel Media, Ezra Levant, I look all of it. Very grateful to all you guys. And, you know, hey, my wife, she's feeling really bad because of that attack just 2 days ago. And I really hope we stay in touch. I can give you updates on as long as we are still here, but we are trying to get the heck out of here ASAP.
Listen, when something comes up, I do want you to contact me when something comes up. And listen, if you're able to get your hands on your own video of any of this thing happening, get it over to me right away, because I need Canadians to understand just how bad it is in Europe. And I need them to understand that I'm warning you now, Canada, so that this does not come here, because I don't want 5-year-old girls being raped and pissed on by Muslims. I don't want girls who are blonde and blue-eyed or red-haired, green-eyed going missing as sex slaves where you never see them again.
In Germany, that is called a sexual emergency. This Iraqi refugee that raped a little boy up the rear end, he said, I had a sexual emergency. And he was given a very light sentence. And here's the other thing about the video, to give you an idea. We have been asking the police department for a video of the nasty attack on my wife in the bus. We've asked it via a lawyer. Yeah? Again, we asked it. They refused to give us the video. They gave us a couple of still shots where you couldn't see it, because it's my feeling they know that I want to pass it to you guys. They refused to give us the video. So they're going against our human rights as well, yeah. But I will try again.
Please do. And if you get it, I need to see that, and so does Canada. Mike, thank you very much for joining us, and stay safe.
Hey, thanks a lot, eh?
You're very welcome. And I'm Kevin J. Johnston, freedomreport.ca.